In the glittering annals of Hollywood, we've seen our fair share of stars rise and shine. But today, we gather under the bright lights with heavy hearts to bid farewell to the beloved and iconic Suzanne Somers. The world has lost a genuine gem, and as we reminisce about her remarkable career, we'll undoubtedly remember the laughter and the unforgettable moments she brought us, particularly those zany days on the small screen as the vivacious Chrissy Snow on Three's Company. When we think of Suzanne Somers, we think of a talented actress whose stunning beauty and infectious charm made her an undeniable Hollywood sensation. From her first dazzling appearance on the silver screen, Suzanne effortlessly captivated audiences with her charisma and comedic brilliance. Who could forget her as the lovable blonde bombshell Chrissy Snow, sharing an apartment with the ever-hapless Jack Tripper? Three's Company, that iconic show that graced our screens back in the 70s. Suzanne's portrayal of Chrissy, the charming but sometimes scatterbrained roommate, is nothing short of legendary. Her comedic timing was a work of art, and her unforgettable moments with the charismatic and equally hilarious Jack Tripper, played by the brilliant John Ritter, were the stuff of TV gold. One can't help but chuckle at the memory of the countless misunderstandings and comical mishaps that ensued when Jack and Chrissy tried to navigate their living arrangements without raising the landlord's suspicions. The way Suzanne Somers and John Ritter played off each other was pure magic, giving birth to some of the most uproarious and side-splitting moments in sitcom history. In the classic Roper's doorknob scene from the television show, you can clearly see the comedic genius of the characters involved. Here, Jack Tripper, played by John Ritter, Janet Wood, played by Joyce DeWitt, and Chrissy Snow, played by Suzanne Somers, and Mr. and Mrs. Roper, the landlords, played by Norman Fell and Audra Lindley, are having one of their typical misunderstandings in their apartment upstairs. Mrs. Roper hears a strange noise coming from the living room and suspects Mr. Roper is up to no good. Mr. Roper, who is innocently trying to fix the doorknob in their apartment, repeatedly tells her that he's just working on the doorknob. Mrs. Roper misinterprets Mr. Roper's innocent statement, thinking he's making an inappropriate sexual innuendo. The dialogue in this scene is filled with playful wordplay and innuendos, with Mr. Roper's genuine confusion and Mrs. Roper's suggestive interpretation causing laughter. Mrs. Roper insists on coming downstairs to see what her husband is up to, convinced that he's involved in something scandalous. As she arrives in the living room, she misunderstands something Jack says, causing further confusion. The scene culminates in a classic comedic misunderstanding where Mr. Roper is bewildered by the chaos, Mrs. Roper is convinced of her husband's guilt, and the room is filled with laughter. Eventually, the misunderstanding is cleared up, and the Ropers realize that there was no inappropriate behavior going on. The scene ends with the Ropers going back to their apartment, leaving the audience in stitches over the hilariously misconstrued events. This scene is a perfect example of the witty and playful humor that Three's Company was known for, and it highlights the incredible comedic timing of the actors involved, especially Norman Fell and Audra Lindley as Mr. and Mrs. Roper. It's one of the many memorable moments that contributed to the show's enduring popularity and remains a classic in the realm of television comedy. But the show could never have been the great success that it came to be without Chrissy Snow, played by Suzanne Somers. The Janet's Father episode of the classic Three's Company is another memorable and comical scene. The scene takes place in the living room of the apartment shared by Jack Tripper, Janet Wood, and Chucklesome Chrissy Snow, played by Suzanne Somers. Here, Jack is about to meet Janet's father, who is coming to visit. Janet has described her father as strict and conservative. Jack is incredibly nervous about meeting Janet's father, fearing that he might not approve of him. So he dresses up formally, wearing a suit, and decides to rehearse a respectful first contact greeting and introduction etiquette. A knock on the door is heard, and Jack opens it, assuming Janet's father has arrived. To Jack's surprise, a young, casually dressed, and hip man enters the apartment. Jack, still under the impression that he is Janet's father, greets him respectfully. Jack tries to make conversation with this man, who he mistakenly believes is Janet's father. He compliments the man's casual attire, mentioning how young and with it he looks. The man, confused by Jack's comments, reveals that he's just a plumber who was called to fix a leak in the apartment. Jack is utterly embarrassed and realizes his mistake. He thought he was being polite and respectful to Janet's father, but instead made a fool of himself in front of her plumber. The comedic twist in the scene comes from Jack's initial anxiety and his earnest attempt to impress Janet's father, only to be completely off the mark. Janet enters the apartment and is surprised to find Jack talking to the plumber. Jack tries to explain his mix-up to Janet, who can't help but find humor in the situation, especially when she learns that the plumber thought Jack was crazy. This classic moment showcases the humor of Three's Company, where misunderstandings and miscommunications often lead to hilarious situations. It also highlights Jack Tripper's endearing yet klutzy character, as he tries to navigate the complexities of social interactions and relationships. The scene is a testament to the comedic genius of John Ritter, Suzanne Somers, and Joyce DeWitt, along with the rest of the other cast members. It encapsulates the show's ability to mine humor from everyday situations. Janet's father incident and Chrissy's many delightful malapropisms were all testaments to the crew's comedic masterpiece. But Chrissy Snow, portrayed by Suzanne Somers, was always the highlight of the show. Known for her delightful malapropisms on Three's Company. One memorable example is when she once said, "I just had a severe childhood." What she intended to say was, "I just had a severe cold." These humorous mix-ups were a recurring element of her character, adding to the comedic charm of the show. Chrissy's innocent and often confused character made her malapropisms all the more endearing and laugh-inducing. In Chrissy's Date, Season 1, Episode 5, the episode begins with Chrissy Snow, Suzanne Somers, being excited about her upcoming date with a charming man she met at the Regal Beagle, the local pub. She can't wait for the evening and is looking forward to a romantic dinner with her new suitor. However, as is typical in Three's Company, a series of comedic misunderstandings unfolds. Chrissy confides in her roommates, Jack Tripper, John Ritter, and Janet Wood, Joyce DeWitt, about her date, but they accidentally get the wrong idea about who the date is with. As the evening approaches, Chrissy's date arrives at the apartment, and it turns out to be not the suitor she had in mind, but a different, less appealing man. The confusion arises from a mix-up in names, leading to her unexpected suitor being the wrong man entirely. Chrissy tries to navigate the awkward situation as her roommates, Jack and Janet, struggle to make sense of the bizarre twist. Throughout the episode, the trio finds themselves in a series of comedic situations, attempting to resolve the misunderstanding while keeping the unwanted suitor at bay. The episode is filled with humorous moments as the characters attempt to untangle the confusion, leading to a hilarious and entertaining outcome. In typical Three's Company fashion, miscommunications and mishaps are at the heart of the comedy, and this episode showcases Chrissy's endearing innocence and the cast's comedic chemistry. Another of Suzanne Somers' blockbuster episodes is Chrissy's Night Out, Season 1, Episode 13. The episode Chrissy's Night Out begins with Chrissy Snow, Suzanne Somers, excitedly planning to go out for a night on the town. She's looking forward to enjoying a fun evening and socializing with friends. However, her roommates Jack Tripper, John Ritter, and Janet Wood, Joyce DeWitt, become increasingly concerned about her safety as the evening approaches. They worry that Chrissy might be going into unfamiliar or potentially dangerous situations. To ensure Chrissy's safety, Jack and Janet decide to keep an eye on her, albeit from a distance. They engage in a series of humorous attempts to discreetly follow her while avoiding being spotted. This leads to a chain of comical events, including disguises, hiding behind objects, and close calls as they try to maintain their surveillance without Chrissy realizing what they're up to. As the night progresses, the episode unfolds with Jack and Janet's well-intentioned but hilariously clumsy efforts to look out for Chrissy. Along the way, they encounter various characters and situations, each adding to the comedic chaos. The episode showcases the endearing theme of misunderstanding and farcical situations that were a hallmark of Three's Company. It also highlights the close bond between the roommates and their concern for each other's well-being, even if it results in absurd and humorous scenarios. In the Stanley's Hotline, Season 2, Episode 4. The episode Stanley's Hotline begins with Chrissy Snow, Suzanne Somers, eavesdropping on a conversation between her roommates, Janet Wood, Joyce DeWitt, and Jack Tripper, John Ritter, and their landlord, Mr. Stanley Roper, Norman Fell. During the conversation, Mr. Roper mentions Stanley's Hotline, a reference to a telephone hotline for his business. However, Chrissy misunderstands the context of the conversation and believes that Janet is in love with Mr. Roper. This leads to a classic case of mistaken identity and a series of humorous events. Chrissy, believing that Janet has romantic feelings for Mr. Roper, decides to play matchmaker and sets up a romantic dinner for the two. Janet is completely baffled by the situation but goes along with it to avoid hurting Chrissy's feelings. The comedy escalates as Chrissy's efforts to bring Janet and Mr. Roper together become more and more absurd. She arranges a candle-lit dinner, plays romantic music, and encourages what she believes are romantic interactions between Janet and Mr. Roper. As the episode unfolds, misunderstandings and mix-ups continue, with hilarious consequences. Mr. Roper, unaware of Chrissy's misinterpretation, is perplexed by the sudden romantic overtures from Janet. Janet, on the other hand, is bewildered by the whole situation and plays along to keep Chrissy happy. Stanley's Hotline showcases Chrissy's knack for getting things hilariously mixed up and highlights the classic sitcom trope of misunderstandings leading to comedic chaos. The episode is filled with laughter as the characters navigate the absurd situation created by Chrissy's misinterpretation. These episodes, like many others in Three's Company, feature Chrissy Snow's character at the center of comedic misunderstandings and situations. Suzanne Somers' portrayal of Chrissy added a unique and lovable dimension to the show, making these episodes stand out in the series. But Suzanne Somers was more than just a sitcom sensation. Her career spanned a wide range of memorable roles, including her breakthrough appearance in the film American Graffiti and her work as the eternally stylish fitness guru. She became an inspiring advocate for health and wellness and left an indelible mark on the fitness world with her Thigh Master empire, proving she was a force to be reckoned with both on and off the screen. As we say our final goodbyes to Suzanne Somers, let's remember her not just as a Hollywood legend but as a woman who brought laughter and joy into our lives through her work. Her memory will forever live on in the hearts of those who cherished her talent and her incredible spirit. Suzanne Somers, thank you for the laughter, the love, and the unforgettable moments you've given us throughout your illustrious career. You will be sorely missed, and Hollywood will forever be dimmer without your luminous presence. Well, that's all folks. Don't forget to like, share, thumbs up, and subscribe. I'm Molly, and this is Knick Knack News. Adios.